Are you like do you know what moral realism is?
No,
Are you okay? Do you believe like morals are objective?
I don't know. I'm dabbling in it.
Yeah. Okay. Um,
I'm still learning it.
are you like
There's
a
okay.
are you like one of those like argumentation ethics people?
I'm learn. I'm learning about it. I'm
Okay.
learning about it, and I'm starting to understand it. But I'm not fully 100% convinced. But
Okay.
it does make sense to me.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, I saw you had like a conversation with Liquid Zoo. I think that argument is kind of garbage, but if you're not confident in it, we don't have to get into it. But
No, we could talk about argumentation ethics. To me, from what I hear about argumentation ethics, is that basically if you just decide to make an argument, you are basically admitting that you think that making an argument is better than committing an aggression. If not, then you wouldn't make that argument in the first place.
yeah, okay. So so we can talk about that then. So if I make an argument and I can say something like, yeah, in within an argument, I can acknowledge that it is good to like argue instead of quote unquote aggressing upon you, and then I could
Hmm.
also say that like outside of the argument, when I'm not arguing with you, it'd be okay for me to aggress on you. I don't think there's a contradiction there, right?
Well, then you would be making an argument.
Exactly. So like if I'm not making an
So
argument,
if you're making an argument, you think that making an argument is better than committing an aggression.
yeah, if I'm making an argument at that time, I could say that at that time it's better to
Yeah.
argue than to aggress. But outside of that
Yes.
time, I could say that it's justified to aggress instead of argue.
If you were to propose that it's justified to commit an aggression, you would be contradicting yourself.
Sure, but I don't necessarily
And
have.
even later in the conversation, even later, no matter
What do you mean?
at any point, if you were to ever propose that you think that making an argument or making committing an aggression is better than making an argument, you would be contradicting yourself. Because by making an argument, you think you are presupposing that making an argument is better than committing an aggression. The reason why that is because actions are purposeful. People do not think do rational actors do not do things for no reasons. If you make so for instance, if I have an apple or if I have this can of Ghost energy drink and I sip it, you can assume that I am choosing to drink that thing. I have a lower level of discomfort, and by drinking this thing, I will have a higher level of comfort. I will be better off. So if you are choosing to make an argument, we can only presuppose by that action, because actions are reasonable, purposeful, that you believe that making an argument is better than committing an aggression. If you thought that committing an aggression was better than making an argument, you would just simply commit an aggression and
Well,
not argue at all.
well, I mean, but that's my point, right? So like I could, so like the problem with argumentation ethics is that like I would reject the idea that I would reject the idea that that you can make the assumption that I'm saying that it's always justified to argue instead of aggressing. I could say that like only when I argue, like in this specific argument that I'm having with you, yeah, it is preferable now to argue instead of aggress.
Well,
But
if you make any time that you make an argument, that's correct.
yeah,
Any time that you make an argument, you are saying that you think, well, you're not saying, but you're implying that you believe that making an argument is better than committing an aggression. You could go and commit an aggression, right? Afterwards.
yeah,
But that would make you inconsistent with your ethic.
I don't think so because like
Why is that?
okay, let me use an example. Okay, do you think it is do you think that you should sleep sometimes?
Yes.
Can you justify that you should sleep outside of sleeping? Or, like when you are asleep?
No.
Okay, so if you can't justify that you should sleep when you're asleep, then that means that you can't argue that you should sleep, right? Because to do so, you necessarily have to not be asleep, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, when you're asleep, you're not conscious.
Yeah,
So you're not making an argument.
yeah. Okay, so like it's
You're
okay.
not making it when you're asleep. You're not making an argument. You're not committing an action. You're not trying to get to the truth of anything.
Okay, but that's the thing. So it's like you wouldn't say if I say something like if I make the argument you should sleep sometimes, you don't think it's inconsistent, right?
No,
Okay, so if I say that you should aggress sometimes, how is that inconsistent?
because by making an argument, you presuppose that you think that making an argument is better than committing an aggression. By sleeping, you think that sleeping is better than not sleeping. You know what I'm saying? So if you were to, in your sleep, wake up and then say you can't sleep and not sleep at the same time. Like, it's kind of hard to explain, but basically when you make an argument, you're presupposing that you think that making an argument is better than committing an aggression.
So, okay,
so if you make an argument later that you think it's better to make an argument or to commit an aggression, you would be going against your earlier claim.
Okay, so this is the issue, right? Is that like when I am arguing, I can say that at this point so since I am arguing, then yeah, it is better to argue now and not to aggress. But when I am aggressing, I wouldn't be arguing with you. I would just be aggressing.
No, you would not be arguing with me. You would be aggressing.
Yeah, and so
But the thing is, you would not be then you would be inconsistent with your ethic, because then you would say, 1 minute you're saying it's not okay to make it is okay. It's not okay to commit it, or I believe it's better to make an argument than committing an aggression. And then the next minute you're committing an aggression.
Okay, so would you say that when you argue, you are also presupposing that it is better to argue than to sleep? When you argue, so since I'm arguing with you right now, could we make the assumption that you also express the preference that it is better to argue than to fall asleep?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Okay, so like, so this is like a part of so in argumentation ethics, there's like a thing where it's like, so for example, like I could never argue that I should not argue, right? Because that'd be contradictory, because I am arguing, right? So like, but another thing that it would have to presuppose necessarily is that like, if I am arguing with you, then like I'm also kind of expressing a preference, which is that I would rather argue with you right now than fall asleep. Isn't that right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, so if I would rather argue with you right now than fall asleep, okay, hold on. So, yeah. So, like, if I can say that
sleeping is not an aggression, though.
Sure.
Going to sleep doesn't contradict making an argument. Committing an aggression contradicts making an argument. It would go against making an argument.
Well, okay, so okay. So aggressing means you're not making an argument, and sleeping also means you're not making an argument.
Yeah, but aggressing, right, is the initiation of conflict over scarce resources.
Sure.
You don't do that when you're sleeping. You're asleep. That's the difference.
Okay, but yeah, but I don't see. Okay, so like the problem with that is that like I don't really see how that makes a difference, because like in both cases, like
the initiation of there's a stick, right?
Yeah.
If you're asleep, you're not initiating conflict over over the stick, are you?
No, but I don't see how that's relevant, because
if you're committing if you have somebody else has a stick and I come up to you and I take that stick by committing an aggression, I have committed an aggression against that person. I've made an action that violates that other person's property right.
Sure, but like so like the issue here is that like you're trying to make an argument that I am being inconsistent with my ethic by like arguing at one point and then aggressing at one point, right? And so the way that you're trying to justify that is that like, because I could never argue that I could never make an argument that I should be aggressing upon you, that therefore it's inconsistent without contradicting. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that with the sleeping example, I could also never argue that like I should be asleep, right? Or that you should sleep, without like kind of contradicting, because by not sleeping, I'm saying that it's better to argue than to sleep.
It's better to argue than to sleep.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean. Yeah, but sleeping doesn't contradict making an argument.
Yes, it does. If you're asleep, you can't make an argument.
Yes, but the thing is, sleeping is not an aggressive act.
But how is that relevant to the inconsistency? It would still be inconsistent, right? If I argued that I should be asleep right now, because if I'm not asleep right now, yeah.
The thing is, sleeping means that you're not making an argument, right? Yeah,
and aggressing
committing an aggression.
It means that you're not making an argument.
Yes, but committing an aggression is also not making an argument.
Yeah.
While also violating a person's property rights. That's the difference. You could choose to not making an argument is not committing an aggression. It's not the same thing.
Okay, sure. I understand that you have an issue with making an aggression, but what I'm saying to you is that like, I don't really see how that it's inconsistent. If the sleeping example isn't inconsistent, I don't see how this is inconsistent.
Because making an argument doesn't presuppose that you shouldn't sleep.
Well, it presupposes that you don't think that you should sleep right now, right?
At that moment.
Yeah, and also
but you could sleep later.
And you could also aggress later outside of argument.
Yes, but aggressing, when you make an argument, right?
Yeah.
You're saying that you believe that making an argument is better than committing an aggression. And if you're saying that you are making, you think that sleeping, you would say that statement again?
Okay, yeah. So what I'm saying is that when I'm aggressing, I'm also not arguing. When I'm sleeping, I'm also not arguing, right? Both are, and when I am arguing, I could never argue that I should be aggressing, and when I'm arguing, I could never argue that I should be sleeping, because when I'm arguing, I'm expressing that I don't.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
The problem with that is when you're committing an aggression, you're bypassing argumentation to commit an action. But with sleeping, you're not doing that. You're just sleeping. You're not committing any action against any other person.
Okay, but I'm not understanding how that expresses an inconsistency then.
Well, because you're not initiating a conflict when you're sleeping. When you make an argument against somebody, you're initiating a conflict, right? And by having a conversation or trying to come to the truth of a situation, you're trying to come to the truth. You're making an argument. You're trying to come to the truth of a situation, right?
Yeah,
and then
you're
if you
not
choose to aggress afterwards, then you're making it. You're basically going against what you were saying before. But the thing is, when you're sleeping, you're not initiating a conversation. You're not trying to get to the truth of anything. So it's not relevant to an argument.
No. So the issues are the issues are when what I am saying is that so I reject your kind of assumption that when I argue, I'm making the argument that that arguing is always preferable to aggression. I could say that arguing is preferable to aggression in this argument.
I never said that. I said that if you're making an argument at the time that you're making the argument, you are saying that you prefer to make an argument committing an aggression.
Yeah, that's the point.
That doesn't mean that I'm saying that every single time. You know what I'm saying? If you were to later say you do think it's better to commit an aggression, because you're saying 1 minute you're saying I think it's not okay I think it's better to make an argument than committing an aggression, and then next minute you're saying I think it's better to commit an aggression.
Yeah,
you're not really being consistent there.
Wait. No. Okay, so but then that could apply to the sleeping as well, because when I'm arguing with you, I'm saying I prefer to argue than to sleep, and then when I'm sleeping, I'm expressing a preference that I prefer to sleep than to argue. So how is that not inconsistent as well then?
Well, because you're not saying that you don't think you should sleep. You're just saying that you think that making an argument is better than sleeping.
Okay, but wait, why couldn't I say that about aggression as well? I'm saying that I'm not saying that when I'm arguing, I'm not saying that I shouldn't aggress. I'm just saying that right now, arguing is better than aggression. Right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, but I never said that by making an argument, you're saying that you shouldn't aggress. All I'm saying is that 1 minute you're saying that I should aggress, and the next minute you're saying I shouldn't.
Okay, and at one point in time when I'm arguing, I'm saying that I shouldn't sleep, and when I'm sleeping, I'm expressing the preference that I should sleep. It's the same thing, right?
Let me think about that. I'm not really good with this whole argumentation ethics thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's my whole understanding of it. That's just my understanding of it.
Yeah,
I have to think about that.
That's fine. We didn't need to get into that. I was okay without getting into that. But
I guess what I would have to say to that is, if you're, but sleeping doesn't contradict making an argument, does it?
Well, I mean, if you're asleep, you can't make an argument, isn't that right?
Yes, but that's not contradicting making an argument.
Sure, and
not making an argument and not that's not contradictory.
Well, but when I'm aggressing and I'm not making an argument either, right?
is contradictory to making an argument.
I don't see how. Why?
Well, because you could either make an argument or you can either aggress.
And you could either make an argument or you could sleep. You can't do both at the same time.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't contradict each other, as far as I could tell.
But they seem the same to me. I don't see how you could say one's a contradiction and one's not.
Well, because one, you can. Nah, I guess you're right about that. I guess I'll have to think about that. Argumentation ethics.
Yeah,
I never really thought about that.
Yeah, that's fine. Like we didn't need to get into that. Like yeah.
Mhm.
What
But
was
I guess
yeah.
generally, like I said like earlier, I was kind of I'm more learning about it. And I never thought about it in that way. So I guess I'll have to ask somebody about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Like,